I'm a historian here at McGill, and I was asked to moderate the first panel of the afternoon on traversing borders, Canada in America. We have three really fascinating presentations from different disciplines. We're also going to be hearing different languages, a perfect microcosm of the event today. So how we'll do, we'll continue the format from the morning. We'll go each speaker at a time. We'll save Q&A for afterwards, and so we'll see how the panel comes together in that way. And so our first speaker is Zaira Zarza, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Art History, Cinema, and Audiovisual Media at the Université de Montreal. As a programmer, she has worked at the Toronto and Cartagena International Film Festivals and directed the CLASHSA Film Festival in 2019. Her current research focuses on cinemas from Latin America, the Caribbean, and its diasporas.
Good afternoon, thank you. Is this a microphone?
Yeah.
It doesn't bend?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds, can you hear me well? No?
Hello. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for your presence here today. What a pleasure to be in the company of such wonderful colleagues and extraordinary students with projects that inspire us. I'm very glad also to see such an amazing turnout for an event on Latin American and Caribbean studies. That means we're here, and we need to be screened, taught, exhibited, like really like be a part of a Canadian and Quebecois culture as we deserve. I'm also very privileged to do all of this while living and working in the unceded indigenous territories of Montreal, Yage, or Moniyang. I'm very grateful to the indigenous communities who have taken care of these lands for so long. My work in Latin American and Caribbean studies locates at the intersection of diaspora and cinema studies. We've talked a lot about diaspora today, mainly from feminist and post-colonial perspectives. Without claiming expertise, I don't like many of the previous presenters today. Two of my main contributions to these fields are an ongoing project on Cuban migrant filmmaking, and more recently, my work on Latinx Canadian cinemas, production, circulation, and archives. As a film and media art curator and programmer, I also work alongside my students to emphasize the relevance of film and media curatorial work as a key aspect of academic research, and also as a beautiful way to link our universities with the broader communities. Through the affective labor that curation implies, one that also includes the lived experiences of everyone that participates in these projects as a crucial methodological tool. I analyze Latinx Canadian and Latinx Quebecois filmmakers and films through the lens of translocality. That is, the local, community-based, bottom-up interactions at networks within and between urban areas that enable us to reconsider everyday experiences and practices beyond the constraints imposed by the scale of the nation states with its bureaucracies, its borders, and neoliberal and corporate economies. The scale here is at the level of our household, blocks, neighborhoods, and cities, our communities, which allow more agency to artists and filmmakers, I would say also to scholars, and it's essential to understanding diasporic cinemas and migrant filmmakers' sense of home, integration, and belonging in the host society. One of the primary case studies I'm working with now is what we call the Toronto Latinx boom of the 1990s, and particularly the Crossing Border International Festival of Latin American Short Film and Video, held in 1995 and led by the Southern Current Film and Video Collective that was founded in Toronto in 1993. This initial showcase was followed by a second iteration in 1997. These gatherings eventually led to the foundation of Alucine, a Latin film and media festival, one of the leading platforms for Latinx Canadian cinema in Canada, nationwide. So, the 1995 program, curated by Jorge Lozano, Ricardo Acosta, and Sinara Rosso, who currently directs the festival, included 72 short films from 250 entries, including Latin American, Latinx film made in the US, Latinx Canadian and Latin American diasporas in other latitudes. For the programmers, the main intention was, and I quote from their words in the catalog that were written yesterday, to showcase and share with all Canadians a selection of films and videos that celebrate the growing Latin American presence in Canada's cultural mosaic. They also recognize the need to cross borders and include the work of Latin American artists from across the Americas, written like that in capital letters. This inclusive and expanded understanding of Latin America claimed that Toronto is Latin America too, and used Cuban anthropologist Fernando Ortiz's allegory of el ajiaco as the center. Ajiaco is like a soup made with many ingredients, as the center of this transcultural experience in two senses. Ethnocultural, on the one hand, as an invitation to transcend borders of all kinds and reflect, as they claimed, the creative legacy of artists descendant from Arab, African, Asian, Jewish, European, indigenous, and mestiza cultures. Formal, on the other hand, because it included everything from experimental narratives and documentary films to soap opera episodes and music videos. If you are an Aterciopelados fan, you can see in this image, they included the music video for Bolero Falaz, this incredibly Bogota-based piece by Aterciopelados. There's also Unbound, a film directed by Chilean-born Claudia Morgado, also edited by Ricardo Acosta, that won probably the first Latinx Canadian film that in 1995 won the award at the Berlinale, the Teddy Award, which is given to films of a queer subject at the Berlin International Film Festival. There is a film by Jorge Laferla, an Argentinian experimental filmmaker. There's a film about El Movimiento Zapatista, a documentary, and also a film by Mariana Rondon. Maybe you know her, she directed many years ago, among other films, but her incredible first film was Pelo Malo. It's a film from 2013 from Venezuela. So for this festival, they received support from, among others, the Racial Equity Fund, administered through LIFT, the Liaison of Independent Filmmakers of Toronto, that played a pivotal role in the presence of these Latinx Canadian filmmakers in the general film cultures of the city, and funded, they were funded also by the Ontario Film Development Corporation and the Metro Cultural Affairs Division of the City of Toronto. Among the selected works were short films from Brazilian Sandra Kogut, as well Argentine Jorge Laferda, I had mentioned that already, Cubans in the diaspora, Sergio Giral, Coco Fusco, and Carmelita Tropicana, a sample. Carmelita Tropicana was a queer performance artist and filmmaker based is Cuban American, she's based in New York. There was also a sample of the first student films by the first generation of Escuela Internacional de Cine y Televisión de San Antonio de los Baños, ACTV. Mariana Rondon was part of that generation, and of course Marcos Arriaga, Jorge Lozano, and a fundamental figure of this Latinx boom in Toronto in the 90s, Ramiro Puerta. Born in Bogota, actor, musician, and filmmaker José Ramiro Puerta Zuluaga began working as a driver at the Toronto International Film Festival, TIFF, in 1988, and 3 years later he was already the first programmer of Spanish language and Latin American films in the Latin American Perspective section of that festival until he died in January 2022 at the early age of 48. I think somebody was talking about cosmic relations before. I am like a third generation or fourth generation former programmer of Latin American, Ibero-American cinema at TIFF, and I kind of like thank Ramiro for opening this door at the festival. He hired Diana Sanchez, who then went out to work for over 20 years at the festival, and she hired me eventually when I was a doctoral student, and I worked with her, and I learned a lot from Latin American cinema, Latinx Canadian cinema, and the film festival world working there. So Puerta worked as a programming advisor for for the Crossing Border film events, but as early as 1993, together with Chilean filmmaker Maria Teresa Larraín, who now lives in Toronto, he had called for the first national gathering of Latinx Canadian filmmakers in the bulletin of the Liaison of Independent Filmmakers of Toronto. We can find those archives at the website of LIFT. Yay, LIFT, thank you for your amazing archives. It's a bulletin of February 1993. And he proposed, both of them, Maria Teresa and Ramiro, proposed common solutions for a group that was living, as Jessica Redis puts it, in the interstices of invisibility. Puerta and Larraín realized that due to isolation, the isolation of Latin American filmmakers and artists in Canada, in the diaspora in Canada, resulting from linguistic, cultural, and racial barriers, specifically new immigrants did not have access to, even were unaware of, the networks and resources available in the arts community and cultural funding organizations. The meeting was held in the autumn of the same year and gave birth to the Corrientes del Sur, or Southern Current collective, which organized the festivals of 95 and 97. With his production company Snake Cinema, Ramiro completed a trilogy of self-referential short films as a director. The first, Crossing Border, is based on Guillermo Verdecchia's very well-known, extraordinary 1993 play Fronteras Americanas, American Borders, and stars Verdecchia himself, who also stars in his third film, The Topic of Cancer, as the leading character. A Contestation to Violence, the musical comedy Two Feet, One Angel from 1997, follows Ramiro himself as a dancer who unfolds in a delightful performance across the Toronto cityscape after being accidentally killed on a street corner. His last autobiographical film, The Topic of Cancer, from 2001, was a beautiful cinematic farewell after his diagnosis. It features his family, his children, many of his friends in the artistic and cinematographic community of Toronto, and of course himself, always using comedy as a political tool. Puerta worked regularly with Ricardo Acosta on editing and with cinematographer Kim Durko. He made another short film that I am yet to watch, titled Contradanza número 2 in 1991. A division of the Toronto International Film Festival, the TIFF Film Reference Library, is now the repository of Ramiro's legacy, acquired in 2018 through his widow and collaborator Leslie Lester. His films had been in his family's repository for over 20 years. Although the pandemic delayed the momentum around this filmmaker's materials, in 2023 the collection was finally inspected and appraised, which contributed greatly to understanding its current state. It contains materials related to Puerta's programming work at TIFF and his filmmaking career as the director of the 4 short films mentioned earlier. Overall, the archives comprise 51 items considered moving image, video, 19 celluloid films, including 35 millimeters, and VHS transfers of Super 16 color negative transfers to U-matic and master video recordings on Betacam. The essential contribution of Ramiro Puerta and others from the Toronto Latinx boom of the 1990s, as well as those who established themselves in other locations, continue to be underrepresented in the history of both Canadian and Quebecois cinemas. Notable figures include indigenous Colombian Alejandro Roseria, Black queer Cuban editor extraordinaire Ricardo Acosta. Thanks to Ricardo and to Jorge Lozano, who was also part of this movement, I was able to access the archives of the programs of these 2 festivals, 95 and 97. Claudia Morgado, Marilu Malé, who has been living in Montreal since the 1970s, Rita Ferrando, Leo Pimienta, Tamara Segura, Catherine Jurkovic. All of these last names are a younger generation of what Anita Lee, who's the programming director of TIFF, now call a new wave of Canadian cinema, much more eclectic and diverse, including this diasporic gaze. And Chilean filmmaker Cecilia Araneda is a key figure in this community as well. She organized the National Gathering of Latin Canadian Filmmakers held here in Montreal in 2023. It was a gathering 3 decades after that first gathering of Latinx Canadian filmmakers, Many of them came from Montreal to Toronto. This was the other way around. Many of them came from all over Canada to Montreal. And it was really a wonderful experience that allowed us to also understand that we live in a community that needs so much more representation and that we need each other. In our book, coming out this fall, Deflecting the North, Latinx Canadian Practices and Experiences in Film, Media, and Visual Arts, one of our key discussions is the double silencing of the cultural productions of artists and filmmakers of Latin American origin in Canada and Quebec, mainly overlooked by cultural institutions, both at home and in the host society. We also examine how Latinx, Canadianness, and other forms of diasporic identification of this community often evolves under the hegemony of the United States, Latino and Latinx, Latina categories. The questions that inspired us in putting this volume together, among others, are how do artists and filmmakers position themselves, if at all, in the Latinx Canadian discourse? What does it mean to self-identify, or not, as Latinx Canadian in an officially bilingual post-colonial context, and whether and how these identity constructions are complicit in the reinforcement of these dominant structures. As they claim, the border is you. I believe Ramiro Puerta and Guillermo Verdecchia's critical work offers potential avenues for exploring the answer. For comic relief in the film, they claim stereotypes of Latinidad, narco-culture, exoticism, and corruption to dismantle them in the face of neoliberal power, while addressing the inaccessibility to certain benefits that diasporic communities experience in the host society. Crucero, or Crossing Borders, has been analyzed twice by US Latinx scholars. This is the first well-known film by Ramiro. Kathleen McHugh, these two US-based scholars, claims that the films conceive of borders not according to the physical contiguity of nations, but rather in relation to autobiographical subjectivity, on point. And Sean Noriega, on the other hand, criticizes the use of the suit in the film, which was a very important symbol of resistance for the Chicano movement in the 20th century. I'd say, let's bring this film to life from the archive, screen it, and teach it in Canadian universities, and draw our own conclusions up here. I just want to, as an invitation to conclude, and leave you with 3 minutes of the film that I'm gonna take one more. It's Ramiro and Guillermo. So this film is also available in DVD at libraries here at McGill, I just found, so.
There's a Latino boom on right now. We are a very hot commodity. What I want to do is get like a big chunk of toxic wasteland up on the Highway 400 and make like a third world theme park. You know, you drive up to like big barbed wire gates with guards carrying submachine guns, and you park your car, and a broken down Mercedes-Benz bus comes along and takes you in under guard, of course. And you can buy like for $75 an International Monetary Fund credit card that gets you on all the rides. And as soon as you're inside, you know, like you have to bribe everybody to get anything done, even like just to go to the washroom. And maybe we'll have like a disappearing rainforest section that you can actually wander through and search for rare plants, you know, and maybe find the cure to cancer, or maybe find Sean Connery. And like you rent the little golf cart to drive through it, right? And the golf cart is always breaking down, and you have to fix it yourself. And while you're fixing it there in the sweltering noonday sun, the drug lord comes along on his hydrofoil and offers to take you to his villa, where you can have lunch and watch a multimedia presentation on drug processing. Now, I figure it would do great. I mean, you people love that kind of shit. Now, be able to undercut those travel agents that are selling package tours of Brazilian slums. This will be way cheaper, safer, and it would generate a lot of jobs. And I would make some money and be able to move out of the barrio and get a nice little house somewhere like Forest Hill. Nice neighborhood. quiet. It's a good place to bring up like 15 kids. Forest Hill. And I love Forest Hill. You got professionals, you got families, you got professional families. Yeah, man, we could be neighbors. Would you like that? Sure. I am moving in next door to you, and I am gonna wash my Mustang every day and overhaul the engine and get some grease on your part of the sidewalk. And some friends, like about 12, are gonna come and stay with me for a few years. You like music? Good. Yeah, how about a Chicano for a neighbor? Liven up the neighborhood. Technically, I don't qualify as a Chicano. I wasn't born in East LA. I wasn't born in the Southwest USA. I wasn't even born in Mexico. Does this make me Hispanic? These terms, Hispanic, Latino, they can be misleading, you know, because they lump a whole lot of very different people into one category. Like, there is a world of difference between a Brazilian and a Honduran, between a Bolivian and a New Yorican. That's the Puerto Rican who lives in New York. And then there's Argentinians. I mean, they are practically European. As for me, let's just say that I am a Pachu.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Zaira. Our next presenter would be Eduardo Monteiro, who is a PhD candidate in political science at UCAM, and he holds a master's degree in international relations from the Universidade Estadual do Rio de Janeiro. His research interests include right-wing populism, race and ethnicity, nationalism, and comparative methods. Eduardo.
So it's for Portuguese. Okay. So hi everyone. So yeah, I'm the person who's going to speak in Portuguese, and I'm aware that I cannot speak Portuñol because this AI is not advanced enough. But let's say that it's a really good work that you guys have for me. So eu acho que se eu falar português não muito devagar, quer dizer, devagar, ok, yeah. Bom, so I let all the slides in English, okay, so you guys can follow by the people from behind, you can follow by the lines, the main lines. Bom, então eu tive essa ideia de falar de sujeito-objeto, enfim, por nenhum motivo específico, mas eu fiquei pensando, né, como que eu me sentia, especificamente estudando América Latina no Canadá, e eu percebi que isso foi tratado aqui antes também por outras pessoas, sobre como que a gente às vezes sai do nosso país, às vezes Chile, México, Argentina, Brasil no meu caso, e a gente vem pra cá e a gente cai num ambiente que você vira de repente um especialista em América Latina, coisa que eu não era antes. Mas Bom, então, o que eu estava pensando, né? Eu pensei em fazer isso mais como se fosse quase que uma sessão de autorreflexão e terapia. Então, a primeira pergunta, né, o que significa, né, estudar América Latina e Caribe a partir do Canadá? Eu basicamente diria que dentro do Canadá eu sinto ainda, né, uma boa comunidade de pessoas que estudam América Latina e Caribe, pessoas que estão bem engajadas, né? Acredito que, para mim, enquanto pessoa latino-americana que está estudando também América Latina, mas não só América Latina, eu converso isso muito com o meu orientador, né, Julian, que está aqui, que em alguns momentos você acaba virando o sujeito do próprio objeto de estudo, né? Então você em alguns momentos passa a ser o próprio estudo, enquanto você está fazendo estudo. E isso, eu entendo que normalmente a gente tenta se desvencilhar do objeto de estudo, mas a gente acaba em algum momento virando o próprio objeto de estudo. Então é um pouco daí que eu comecei a minha reflexão. E coisa também que a gente mencionou antes, né? Como que a gente move against essa colonialidade de poder, né? Essa questão de hierarquias de saberes, né? Isso é uma coisa que eu constantemente tenho percebido aqui no Canadá, mas o Canadá também está inserido num todo um outro contexto de América do Norte, Ocidente. Então, como que a gente consegue, mesmo lendo artigos e trabalhos escritos em inglês e francês, como que a gente também consegue, manusear isso e conseguir mover, né, contra, né, trabalhando junto. Isso já foi até tratado numa mesa anterior também, como que a gente consegue, mesmo dentro da área acadêmica, conseguir mudar um pouco essa relação de colonialidade, de poder e de saberes, né? Então, quando o início da apresentação eu falo when, why and how, ok? E aí eu fui percebendo que tem algumas waves, né, de estudo, né? Então, alguns padrões históricos, e isso aqui eu estou falando mais em ciência política e RI, né? Acredito que em outras áreas, antropologia, sociologia, tenham outras maneiras, mas o que eu percebi muito, tanto aqui quanto, uma literatura mais ocidental, alguns padrões de pesquisa, né? Então, durante a Guerra Fria, por exemplo, autoritarismo, political economy, então, teorias da dependência também, né? Processo de democratização, de neoliberalismo, já foi mencionado aqui algumas vezes. Depois, para os anos 2000, a gente tem essa mudança um pouco mais para tratar sobre desigualdade, violência, migração interna e migração da América do Sul também para a América do Norte, América Latina para a América do Norte. Corrupção, bastante estudo sobre isso. Meio ambiente, que também foi falado mais cedo, né? Mas isso já tem muito a ver também com a Amazônia, toda essa questão sobre o papel da Amazônia no mundo e como que os países da América Latina deveriam gerir a Amazônia, que também faz parte do mundo. E nessa hora também a gente trata essa questão de colonialidade, de saber também sobre os saberes locais, como tratar o meio ambiente. Clientelismo muito também, Pink Tide e, enfim, cidadania participativa, tem várias outras waves também de estudo, né? Mas o que me veio à cabeça também às vezes a gente entra para estudar uma outra região, né? E me parece muito, como eu estudo populismo também, eu fiz um levantamento numa base de dados grande, assim, da Scopus, sobre estudos de populismo, e a gente vê essas ondas e quais momentos, quando a onda sobe, a onda permanece, é só no momento em que acontece nos Estados Unidos. Então, nos outros momentos, a gente tem pequenas ondinhas assim que tratam sobre o populismo, que é a minha área de estudo, né? Mas, enfim, então, assim, o que eu fui percebendo, né, que no caso da América Latina, a gente tem a pesquisa, né, acaba seguindo algumas crises regionais. Aí tem os coup d'etat, então os que falharam e os que, né, enfim, foram successful. Colapsos econômicos, protestos migrantes, protestos, né, informalidade, trabalho informal. E me veio na cabeça também essa pergunta aqui, né, se a gente está reagindo ou se a gente está engaging também nesse mesmo processo de manter o local da América Latina como um local também meio problemático, né, um local de problemas, assim, temos que estudar problemas na América Latina, né. Então, nós como pesquisadores, assim, a gente também tem um papel em reagir, claro, mas também refletir sobre o fato da gente estar engajando também nessa talvez esse estereótipo, né? E também na segunda, né, veio essa segunda pergunta, né, se nosso olhar também ele é só vidrado pelas crises, né? Mais cedo o Vitor Armoni comentou sobre a queda, o declive do interesse dos estudantes locais sobre a América Latina. Talvez tenha ficado não tão interessante estudar, já que não está acontecendo nenhuma crise gigantesca. Então, enfim. E eu não estou dizendo que não tem coup d'etat, né? Tem vários. Bom, isso aqui é só mais de 100 coup d'etat que aconteceram na América Latina. E sim, acontece, claro. Eu não estou dizendo que não tem objetividade no estudo, mas eu estou dizendo também nesse duplo papel que acaba acontecendo quando a gente engaja nesses estudos que trabalham mais crises regionais. Alguns momentos parece que se você não falar de crise sobre a América Latina, não tem nada de muito interessante para agregar na área acadêmica. E não só no Canadá, eu estou dizendo assim de maneira geral, fora da América Latina, né? Aí me veio a pergunta também, né, por que a gente estuda a região? Enfim, várias motivações, né? Assim, de maneira geral, a gente tem curiosidade intelectual, né? A gente pode ter uma solidariedade política, a gente pode ter pressões institucionais, muito mais talvez se você está numa cadeira de pesquisa que estuda a América Latina, né? Do que necessariamente no contexto geral do Canadá. Mas eu me peguei mais nessa daqui, então deixei até um pouco maior, né? Eu acho que no meu caso aqui, viria um pouco mais essa questão de positionality. Então eu pensei, mais cedo também teve a Maria comentou, não sei se ela ainda está aqui. Bom, a Maria tinha comentado que ela veio da Venezuela, e aí aqui ela sente vontade de estudar sobre ela mesma, mais ou menos, sobre a família dela. E eu enfim, acabei pensando nisso também, né? Então, eu botei mais ou menos I am Latino, then I should, or must, I don't know, better comprehend myself and where I came from. E não é uma afirmação, é mais uma pergunta. Era afirmação, depois eu botei uma pergunta, né? Então, também, assim, né? A posicionalidade would change something actively in my region, que eu botei aqui, né? Should I give back? Sabe? Isso é muito algo que a gente já mencionou antes, quando às vezes eu vou para o Brasil, tem essa coisa também de se você faz um doutorado fora, no Canadá, você às vezes é tratado também de maneira diferente quando você volta, então isso, enfim, acho que todo mundo aqui talvez já tenha percebido isso quando vocês voltam, vai para Argentina, México, Brasil, enfim, voltam às vezes para algum outro local, às vezes até dos seus pais, você pode ter nascido aqui, mas você sente que você carrega esse peso também, eu acho. Por que eu estou falando disso também? Enfim, foi um pouco difícil de achar esse dado, mas é mais ou menos 3,5% ou 4% da população, diria, do Canadá é latina, né? Eu achei de hispânico, tive dificuldade de colocar os caribenhos também, porque tem uma população grande do Haiti, e brasileiros, enfim, por aí também. Bom, então eu acho que é uma população grande, né? Então, como que a gente também fala sobre essa população aqui, né? No Canadá. Essa segunda também pergunta, né? Se isso aí é mais lançando essa pergunta, né? Se os scholars, né? Diasporic scholars feel the pressure to give back something to the region, sabe? Às vezes sim, às vezes não, sabe? E também, essa terceira, né, How do we bridge partnership and avoid colonial bias? Eu acho que isso é algo que tem sido feito bastante, a meu ver, tá? E isso tem total relação com esse outro slide também, que eu acho que é aqui que me pegou mais, talvez na minha tese, né? sobre métodos e approaches. Eu acho que, ao meu perceber, muita gente usa fieldwork, interviews, archives, so uma coisa mais qualitative, inductive approach. Eu acho que isso, ao meu perceber, isso não diria funciona melhor, mas eu tenho visto muita gente fazendo isso sobre a América Latina, o que acaba, às vezes, trazendo um certo estranhamento se você não o fizer aqui. Isso é uma percepção minha. O ponto de baixo, vou pular aquilo ali, o ponto de baixo, por exemplo, not so many North-South comparative research. Why? Porque eu estou fazendo um North-South comparative research, e meu orientador sabe, e many struggles. Minha percepção, né, eu acho que eu sou mais da segunda, academic barriers to such a perspective, are they incomparable? Então, enfim, toda hora eu tenho que ficar dizendo por que é comparável, por que não é, enfim. Sinto uma certa dificuldade nisso. Eu vou pular uma parte ali, só para deixar nesse último slide até acabar. Então, qual que é a minha posicionalidade nisso também, né? Qual que é a minha posição? Então, claro, né, baseado no Canadá, né? Eu estou fazendo doutorado aqui, Free Speaking University, estou na UQAM, como a gente falou antes. Fiz o curso de francização também, o Julian sabe, então aquele momento que você acaba virando o sujeito objeto, né? Você faz o curso de francização e você vira. Acho que isso é importante, insider/outsider intermediary. Isso constantemente eu falo com o Julian, né? Acabo me sentindo um pouco mais insider quando eu vou falar de Latin America, ou soccer, ou I don't know. E ao mesmo tempo me sinto muito outsider quando tenho que falar sobre Quebec, nacionalismo, Canada politics, ou American politics. E não é necessariamente o que eu intelectualmente acho, mas eu sinto uma pressão acadêmica para te colocar outsider. E em alguns momentos te puxa para insider, mesmo que você não queira. Como eu estava falando antes, eu trabalhava sobre democracia, citizenship, ou whatever, e as pessoas te puxaram, não, você é insider, Latin America, enfim, é isso que eu sinto. E intermediary pode ser outros temas, né, que não necessariamente tem a ver com regiões, não necessariamente Canadá, Quebec, ok, um minuto. Ok. Então, claro, isso é uma constatação meio óbvia, né? My research is the consequence of many decisions that are outside of academia. Mental health, of course, health in general, and also immigration, and fellowships and whatever. Não dá para entrar nisso. Eu acho que a gente deveria caminhar para um horizontal practice nesse sentido, deixar de forçar as pessoas também para ir nas regiões de insider, outsider. A gente tem vários conhecimentos de várias regiões que podem ajudar, né? Enfim, fazer o trânsito com teorias de democracia, parar de falar de pensamento específico, pensamento brasileiro, pensamento latino-americano, enquanto o resto é teoria, né? Então, enfim. Also, think about this. Who defines the relevance of the fields? Why do we see these gaps? A gente falou disso mais cedo também, né? Quem que trabalha sobre isso? Quem que é o presidente da LASA? Qual foi, enfim... enfim, bom, eu tinha muita coisa para... Isso é mais uma sessão de terapia quase, né? Ok, gente, obrigado.
Obrigado, Eduardo. A gente vai agora para a próxima. Y ahora la próxima charla es de Jenni Carolina Perdomo Sánchez, quien es antropóloga y magíster en estudios socioespaciales de la Universidad de Antioquia y actualmente es candidata a doctora en geografía de la Universidad de Montreal. Jenni.
Buenas tardes a todos, muchísimas gracias a las personas organizadoras del evento y también a todas las personas que están aquí. Yo construí una reflexión también en torno a la pregunta que nos convoca el día de hoy, y es la manera en que comprendemos los estudios latinoamericanos y del Caribe y su relacionamiento con nuestra investigación, y yo decidí escribir acerca de la comunidad que me permite darle una definición no acabada, sino en construcción en torno a esto. A mediados de 2024 me uní a un grupo que solía llamarse Estudiantes Latinos en Montreal. El grupo nació con el objetivo de crear un espacio para el intercambio de ideas y de lecturas de nuestros trabajos de investigación. Es decir, el grupo nació con la idea de ser abrigo y estímulo para quienes somos oriundes de algún país de Latinoamérica y el Caribe, hacemos investigación en la región y además estudiamos en Montreal. Hace unos meses decidimos formalizar el grupo, o más bien fortalecerlo. Para ello optamos por adoptar un nuevo nombre, y tras una larga deliberación que pasó por justamente discutir qué es esto de Latinoamérica, qué es esto del Caribe, debemos adoptar ese nombre u otro, decidimos llamarnos Lecturas Liminales, Perspectivas Latinoamericanas y del Caribe en Montreal. Escogimos la palabra liminal en honor a la propuesta de Gloria Anzaldúa, a queer Chicana poet, writer and feminist theorist, quien transitaba libremente entre el inglés y el español, recordando sus diversas pertenencias. Gloria Anzaldúa defendió la liminalidad como un posicionamiento, un vivir entre, que lejos de cerrar o clausurar, abre y posibilita diálogos y agencias en múltiples direcciones. La liminalidad nos permite transitar entre las identidades que nos concede el habitar fuera de nuestros espacios de origen. Aquí somos identificadas como parte de la población BIPOC, Black, Indigenous and People of Color, y del grupo de estudiantes internacionales que viven la precariedad de un permiso temporal que acecha con su caducidad. La liminalidad es también nuestro punto de partida para contribuir a los estudios latinoamericanos y caribeños, un ámbito de investigación y formación amplio que se orienta a la comprensión de las dinámicas y procesos sociales desde sobre la región. La diversidad de este ámbito se refleja en trabajos con heterogéneas apuestas teóricas y metodológicas, así como en el plurilingüismo. En la Universidad de Montreal, por ejemplo, se ha consolidado una línea de investigación en torno a los estudios críticos del agua y las infraestructuras en Colombia, con las investigaciones de Jamie Arias, Camila Sánchez, Tatiana Roa y Catherine Furlong, quien con su más reciente trabajo, El poder de la deuda, EPM y Medellín como metrópolis de servicios, aporta en la comprensión de los efectos que tiene el entramado entre deuda y crecimiento económico en la vida cotidiana de las personas que habitan en los barrios populares de Medellín. Los vínculos de la investigación entre Colombia y Montreal tienen una trayectoria más amplia. El trabajo emblemático, Colonización y protesta campesina en Colombia, 1850-1950, de la profesora Catherine Legrand, es un clásico en los estudios agrarios y una memoria clave para la comprensión de la conflictividad y las desigualdades que han marcado la vida del campesinado y el campo en Colombia. Aquí vemos la última edición del libro, pero su publicación original se hizo en 1988. Este libro ha inspirado otros trabajos en Colombia, como el de Daniel Ruiz Serna, un exponente de los estudios de las ecologías de la guerra, y el de Martín Giraldo, quien está aquí con nosotros y es uno de los fundadores de nuestro grupo Liminales, quien en su tesis doctoral se concentra en el cacao para desafiar las lecturas convencionales en torno a las plantaciones de caña de azúcar en el valle del río Cauca, y de esta manera construye una historia ambiental en la que da cuenta de la transición de la esclavitud a la libertad de comunidades afrocaucanas. Mi trabajo se inscribe en esta trayectoria a partir de lo que considero una doble pertenencia. Investigo en el mismo país en el que nací. Señalo esta doble pertenencia como parte de un posicionamiento político que busca, a partir de un trabajo académico activista, aportar en la transformación de las condiciones de sujeción colonial que todavía persisten en la ruralidad colombiana, de la cual procede mi familia. Mi investigación doctoral analiza la política de la palma de aceite en Colombia a través del estudio de las transformaciones de las relaciones de trabajo y género que se han producido en los últimos 20 años en esta agroindustria en un contexto de devastación ecológica, múltiples violencias y conflicto armado. La palma de aceite tiene una historia reciente en Colombia. A pesar de ello, en la actualidad es el cuarto productor de aceite en el mundo y el primero en América. En mi investigación utilizo como entrada etnográfica la pudrición del cogollo o PC, una enfermedad vegetal que es identificada como la principal amenaza para el futuro de este monocultivo en los países en los que se localiza. Para el control de la PC se ha desplegado en Colombia una compleja intervención estatal mediante medidas fitosanitarias que han desembocado en la creación de un nuevo cultivo y para su manejo en la formación de nuevos sujetos. Este poder hace parte de lo que el antropólogo Croc Harrington denomina agrobiopolítica, una técnica política que hace prosperar ciertas poblaciones humanas junto a ciertos cultivos asociados. Diversos centros de investigación impulsan en Colombia, Brasil y Ecuador la adopción de híbridos que se caracterizan por una mayor resistencia a la PC. Los híbridos son el resultado del cruce de la palma de aceite proveniente de África que se ha diseminado por el mundo y una palma nativa de América del Sur. Los híbridos son unas criaturas que no se pueden reproducir, por lo que la fertilización de las flores que dan forma a los frutos de los cuales se extrae el aceite de palma deben ser polinizados de manera manual. Esto ha llevado a la creación de un área de trabajo denominada polinización. Esta labor se conforma como un espacio para cuerpos feminizados encargados de asperjar de manera manual las inflorescencias de la palma de aceite con una hormona sintética o polen. Los riesgos de esta labor todavía no han sido definidos con claridad. Sin embargo, ya se registran diversos casos de enfermedades que derivan de la polinización. Las mujeres que realizan la polinización son identificadas en el gremio como polinizadoras y son contratadas con sueldos bajos para realizar una labor que requiere un tipo de experticia que se suele asociar a lo femenino, el cuidado. El cuidado, como lo han destacado diversas autoras feministas, está en el centro de la reproducción socioecológica. Pero, ¿cómo el cuidado se enreda con la violencia? ¿O cómo el cuidado, reconocido por lo general en un sentido positivo, se articula a los circuitos de la economía mundial? ¿Qué pasa cuando el cuidado de una criatura como los híbridos es más importante que el cuidado de las mujeres que hacen posible su sostenimiento? ¿Qué vidas se mantienen y cuáles perecen ante la persistencia de los monocultivos y en particular el de palma de aceite? Estas preguntas buscan aportar a varias líneas de investigación que se vienen consolidando en los últimos años en la región a partir de las intersecciones entre las teorías feministas, los estudios de ciencia y tecnología y la geografía. La primera reúne las investigaciones en torno al cuidado y las relaciones de género en el extractivismo agrario a partir de los trabajos de Diana Ojeda, Eloísa Berman Arévalo e Ingrid Díaz. Estos estudios se inscriben también en el campo de la ecología política feminista, que se nutre de las perspectivas anticoloniales de Silvia Rivera Cusicanqui, la propuesta de entramados comunitarios de Raquel Gutiérrez, los feminismos comunitarios de Lorena Cabnal y Gladys Sutzul, y las propuestas de académicas como María Viveros Vigoya, que se posicionan desde una perspectiva americana, interseccional y decolonial, entre otras. Otra línea de investigación con perspectiva latinoamericana es la que se conoce como orientación sociomaterial, consolidada con los trabajos de Alberto Arce y Flavia Charao Márquez en torno al estudio de las relaciones sociomateriales y las prácticas territoriales de los actores. Estas líneas de investigación con las cuales dialoga mi propio trabajo doctoral aportan en la conformación de lo que la profesora Catherine Sien denomina una constelación para definir a los estudios latinoamericanos y del Caribe. Estas líneas, más allá de un inventario, hacen parte de una apuesta política por generar puentes y diálogos amplios entre enfoques teóricos producidos en el sur en conexión con el hemisferio. Como lo señala Sofía Zaragozín, una geógrafa feminista, los estudiantes doctorales, quienes estamos en el eslabón más precario de la academia, somos las personas que vivimos de manera encarnada la forma en que viajan o no los cuerpos y el conocimiento. En un comentario que realizó Sofía Zaragozín el año anterior en la revista Dialogues in Human Geography, la autora registra lo que considera son preguntas sin respuesta. Por ejemplo, plantea la autora: ¿qué le sucede a una académico que comienza su carrera en el sur global y luego decide trasladarse a la Academia del Norte global o viceversa? ¿Se traducen claramente las ideas adquiridas en un lugar a las construcciones de conocimiento geográfico de otro canon? Estas preguntas que si bien son planteadas para la geografía, considero que son relevantes para pensar el futuro de los estudios latinoamericanos y caribeños, en particular para evaluar el estado de las alianzas teóricas, así como el estado de la plataforma de intercambio y pensamiento que se ha construido en Montreal con la región. Por ejemplo, pienso que habría que preguntarse si esta red, si este proceso se ha fortalecido en los últimos años, de qué manera y cuáles son los retos que se avisoran en términos de colaboración, intercambio y articulación entre la academia, las personas que habitan los lugares en los que se realiza la investigación, los movimientos sociales y las colectividades que nos animan a construir una academia diferente. Para cerrar, retomo al grupo de liminales con quienes esperamos contribuir a la consolidación de la Red de Estudios Latinoamericanos de Montreal y de manera más amplia la constelación que nos sirve como pretexto para reunirnos hoy y mantener la esperanza ante los horizontes de incertidumbre que vivimos en la actualidad. Gracias.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to all three of our panelists for a really fruitful and I think very productively overlapping set of papers. We have a good almost half an hour now, which is great. So we'll ask for some questions to maybe get us started, my prerogative as moderator, to think through this question. A lot of what we've just heard is this question of duplicity, right? The different roles that identity and power and position take. And for those studying Latin America here within Canada, this constant tension between what Eduardo was talking about of object-subject, and that comes up in all three papers. And so just to get the conversation started, I wanted to pose to all three of you, how is it that we can study patterns and tropes about Latin America and about Latin America within Canada without reproducing some of the tropes themselves? So we see different ways, whether it be it through satire or self-reflection or building networks, trying to do that analytical work to think about the duplicity there, right, which requires pointing out trends without doing some of this trap of actually reproducing some of them. So I'll put that as a first general question and let that simmer a little bit, and we can also then open it up to the floor as a whole, and we can take a few questions at once, and then we'll gather them and allow our panelists to answer.
So I'll ask a question that Eduardo and I have been discussing for a while now, and it has to do with this instances where we find ourselves, and I think we all find ourselves after hearing us discuss this for the whole day. So once we study Latin America and we want to move towards more abstract format discussions, what I call theorization, what's the legitimacy that we find ourselves confronted to when we attempt to go beyond Latin America and talk about things like democracy, populism, whatever, it's the abstract topic we're working from, and how are we received by scholars not working in Latin America but do work on populism, democracy, or whatever?
Maybe we'll take these two questions to start, because they kind of...
No, es que quisiera empezar por la que funciona. No. Gracias, yo. ¿Sí? ¿Está funcionando? Bueno, quise empezar porque justo terminé por ahí con la pregunta planteada y bueno, se conecta quizás un poco con lo que el profesor nos señala. Y es que insisto en que siento la incomodidad de, bueno, si debemos hablar de América Latina y Latinoamérica, y siento que más que una respuesta, vemos diferentes trayectorias de procesos y movimientos sociales que nos están dando lecciones muy grandes. En particular se ha construido lo que se llama la teoría del sur. Esa teoría del sur está compuesta por afrofeministas, por diferentes movimientos indígenas, campesinos, quienes vienen desde hace rato tratando de construir unas geopolíticas y unas imaginaciones geográficas distintas. En el marco de eso se discute hoy, por ejemplo, la importancia de hablar de la Yayala, de Améfrica Ladina, por ejemplo. Estas geografías y estos espacios buscan subvertir toda la herencia colonial y nos llevan no solo a pensar en, digamos que en la manera en que hoy estamos trabajando, sino en qué otros posibles futuros podemos construir. Y yo pienso que la manera en que podemos construir esos otros futuros y la manera en que podemos subvertir esas diferentes ideas, discursos y demás, parte justamente del hacer posible más espacios. Y esos más espacios pasan, por ejemplo, por el trabajo que estamos haciendo con el grupo de liminales, que busca justamente hacernos espacio en un contexto en el que, por ejemplo, cuando yo empecé mi formación doctoral, me sorprendía mucho que no se conociera esa teoría del sur aquí, que en mis cursos no se tuvieran en cuenta, por ejemplo, toda la literatura en español que existe sobre diversos temas, e incluso, como lo denuncia Silvia Rivera Cusicanqui, que en muchos casos se tome la teoría del sur y se le ponga otro nombre y no se reconozcan las autorías y los legados. Pienso, para finalizar, que es importante también repensar estas dicotomías entre norte y sur. La profesora Catherine lo nombra en su texto, y otras personas, de, bueno, cómo logramos producir diálogos hemisféricos. Sin embargo, siento que ahí siempre tenemos riesgos en términos de reproducir unas lógicas de poder, y siento que nos toca todo el tiempo hacer esta conciencia, pues estar presentes revisando cómo es que logramos construir unos diálogos entre aquello que se llama el sur y el norte, cómo logramos, digamos, que ir más allá de esas dicotomías, pero eso pasa por un reconocimiento, o más que el reconocimiento, por la construcción de alianzas conceptuales, prácticas, políticas, que conecten la academia con la vida cotidiana de las personas que nos alimentan y nos hacen, pues, inspirar en diversas investigaciones. Siento que va por ahí. Muchas gracias.
Okay. Let me try to answer those two difficult questions. So yeah, first, how can we maybe study without these patterns in Canada, right? Maybe like the first questions. I mean, I put just three possible ways. Maybe first of all, be aware of these patterns. Maybe this is the first step, of course. Acknowledging the problem, it's of course the first step. And maybe see these patterns maybe as could be like a blind spot for many scientific reasons, right? It's more about, if you just want to think about in scientific ways, it's just like, it's a blind spot, so maybe you should better understand how this may impact on your research questions and how this may impact on your methods and whatever. So if you just want like one specific reason, could be just your research could be better if you just acknowledge and then do something if it's if it fits your research. And so yeah, maybe like try to convince I don't know, not only grad students but in generally speaking, because this goes directly with what Julian was saying. The hierarchy that we are, not only in Canada, but be like generally speaking in Western academia, right? I cannot tell about the other part, but in Western academia we are in a way that just a few people can speak for the fields rather than be open to other perspectives. So when you were saying that who can speak about maybe theoretically, like theorization on democracy, mainly democracy because it's like a really important issue in political science in Canada and in the US and in other parts of the world. But when you try to jump in and theorize, become something more abstract, and it's when you hit the barrier that I was saying before, when you become outsider in this way, right? Because if you are studying, let me theorize about democracy and populism, for example, taking the Brazilian example and trying to compare with Canada, which is actually pretty much what I'm trying to do. And then you hit the barrier on comparative, on the comparative or north-south comparison, many people that have been studying comparative politics, and I don't know if they are all aware, but it is something that bothers me because couldn't find any methodological reason that could sustain this idea that you cannot compare North and South for theoretical reasons, right? So it could be just, if I just stop using Canada, because I heard that a lot, stop using Quebec or stop using Canada, then it's okay. I mean, the rest, it's fine. Your research can go on. But what about my feelings? I know, not just my feelings, but the proposal of the project, right? I mean, I really want this because I think that it has many scientifically things that could be useful, but at the same time, I hit the barrier on outsider and insider, and it could be really about region where you, not only where you come from, but what you're studying. Because as we were saying, if you just want to study, maybe, I don't know, if I just want to go to Rio and then study, I don't know, informality and favelas, and people will be okay, they would just accept because they would say, oh, okay, you have your, I mean, it's your place, you can speak about it, you can speak Portuguese, you came from there, okay, go there, and then you just, sometimes you just don't do what you want to do, but you just accept what you have to do to maybe just finish your PhD, your master, and then you go on with your life. I mean, yeah, that's it.
Voy a hablar en español porque es mi lengua materna, aunque yo hablo cubano en cualquier lengua extranjera en la que hable. Como dice Amir Nafisi, accented filmmaking es como accented scholarship también. Y en inglés y en francés también, porque UDM, esos son otros cuentos. Yo escuchaba a nuestros extraordinarios doctorantes y pensaba, me recordaba a mí misma hace muchos años cuando llegué a Canadá también como international student y acabo de decir, my feelings no, tus feelings sí. Tus feelings sí y 100%. 100%. En estos tiempos donde la cultura del trabajo es tan frenética, en la que se nos exige tantísimo, across cultures, sobre todo pienso mucho en estudiantes internacionales porque también dirijo la investigación de muchos estudiantes internacionales, quizás por razones obvias, como soy una profesora de Latinoamérica y el Caribe, aunque eso no fue realmente the call for my job, era economía del cine. UDM no sabía lo que llevaba. Pero me doy cuenta también que a veces hay como en nuestros contextos, pensaba, mientras al principio se hablaba de la injusticia epistemológica y de cuál era nuestro approach a estudiar de dónde somos. O estudiar la región para las personas que no están ahí, pero que también tienen un componente afectivo de la investigación. Es casi imposible en estos días, y quizás eso responda también a su pregunta, pensar nuestro trabajo como scholars sin pensar en una perspectiva potencialmente activista, sin pensar en cómo nos posicionamos como investigadores postcoloniales, pero quizás en el camino a ser también un poco más decoloniales. Yo siempre pienso en Alban Achinte y su concepción de la reexistencia, cómo nos reinventamos, cómo no solamente vivimos como diáspora en este contexto, pero también cómo existimos con dignidad y la cuestión de la resiliencia, que a la boricua Yarimar Bonilla no le gusta y dice que resilience is good for business, and I agree. Cuando la resiliencia es el status quo de nuestros pueblos, no queremos más resiliencia, queremos realmente reexistir con dignidad. Entonces, pensando en los estudios latinoamericanos y caribeños, siempre pienso que, y de pronto casi lo digo también, mi approach, no soy latinoamericanista, no soy caribeñista, pero soy profesora de cine y de diáspora. Y también digo, ¿y por qué no soy latinoamericanista? ¿Y por qué no soy? Es como si Latinoamérica y el Caribe fuera el apellido de lo que mencionaba el profesor, estas more Eurocentric, digamos, disciplinas como el cine y Diaspora Studies, que es más global. Entonces, como nuestra legitimidad, que al final la imponen instituciones colonialistas también, o que han seguido durante mucho tiempo ese ritmo, nuestra legitimidad es un poco como que tenemos que irla luchando. Es muy complejo porque estamos dentro de esas instituciones y hay que como infiltrarlas, jugar el juego académico hasta cierto punto, y soy muy cándida en esto que digo, pero yo creo que estar ahí, estar aquí, ya significa mucho. Probablemente muchos de nosotros no trabajemos en un departamento o no estudiemos en un departamento que se llame Estudios de Latinoamérica y el Caribe. Estudiamos geografía, mainstream discipline, trabajamos en un departamento de cine o de ciencias políticas, y entonces como somos los latinoamericanistas dentro de esas disciplinas, pero a la vez cuando, como proponía usted, ¿no? es que tenemos la legitimidad para también teorizar más allá de la región. Se nos estereotipa también como únicamente scholars vinculados a la región. Es complicado, y yo creo que la única manera, lo mencionaban ustedes también, es esto, es hacer justamente esto, es creer en nuestros feelings, creer en nuestro sentido de la comunidad, reírnos un poco también como hacía Ramiro Puerta, y seguir poco a poco creando estos grupos y realmente sabiendo que existimos y conectar.
Más cuestiones.
Yeah, thank you so much. Estoy súper contenta que la inteligencia artificial reconoce un acento cubano. Bueno, thank you so much. That was really lovely, and I mean, this is more of like a more pragmatic question, but the discussion of international students is so important because so this is a commentary question. It's like an invitation for maybe a further discussion, because I'm just reflecting on how in our department, I come from the English department, talk about totally being out of doesn't make any sense. But we have international students and Canadian students, and the international students are in a very difficult situation, like have to pay a lot more, have the visa issues, and we just don't necessarily ever deal with that. And I wonder what we can do because now is a very precarious moment for international students, and even here, obviously, how can we make visible the difficulties and challenges without making vulnerable the international students? Like, what can we do? We as faculty members, because we want to support international students, we don't want to distinguish, but we do know they have separate challenges because of that. So how, I don't know, thoughts and advice, and from the audience too, I think.
I want to say something. It's nothing, but I encourage you to do it. In our department, like across Canada, in many organizations, there were new committees of EDI. Rinaldo Walcott and I disagree with EDI, and I and some of our colleagues, like diversity as a notion has served, and also inclusion, which already defines an inside and an outside something, and who defines the line where what is inside and outside. He prefers equity, that's okay, and decolonization and accessibility, which are also important notion. So we created in lieu of a committee, an EDI committee, we created an EDA committee, equity, decolonization, and accessibility in the department. And it's minimum, and it should not be the number one, it isn't, but we created a fund for students, racialized students, students with neurodivergence, international, many of them are international students. And it comes from books of the professor. It's really a part of minimum contribution, but at least it gives a little help of many international students. Sometimes they're from Canada, but they are from underprivileged communities and really need that help. So every year we have en books de professeur EDA to help a little bit our students. It's nothing, but at least we should really mobilize our resources to especially financially. It's complicated. They pay a little bit more, a lot more than us. Mental health is key. It's very important. All the stress and anxiety for all the bureaucracies of being here. It's a lot having family abroad. Like it's expensive to travel. So anything that we can do is not enough.
Como estudiante internacional pienso que es difícil dar una respuesta definitiva, porque pienso de manera inmediata en todas las personas que conozco que somos estudiantes y tenemos unas experiencias muy diferentes. Pero siento que justamente sí es importante el tema financiero, es clave, el tema de salud mental es muy importante, y también siento que debería haber un acompañamiento, no sé cómo decirlo, quizás una sensibilidad especial de quienes están haciendo las veces de guías y de directores y directoras, porque, bueno, de nuevo, no tengo la respuesta definitiva, pero sí muchas veces nosotros tenemos deadlines que no se acompasan a los de las visas, a los de los permisos de estudio, y mientras que un estudiante canadiense no tiene que lidiar con todas esas preocupaciones, nosotras tenemos que hacerlo, y es una cosa permanente, y además que varía según cada estudiante, que ese es el punto, no es una generalidad, cada situación es muy distinta. Entonces por eso pienso que lo primero que pues, yo haría si estuviera sería contactar al estudiantado de alguna manera y empezar a identificar cuáles son las mayores dificultades y de qué manera la universidad, los departamentos cuentan con unas herramientas para apoyar ciertos procesos, y si no, cuáles se pueden empezar a gestionar. Pienso que el acompañamiento en términos de crear espacios como estos donde se visibilicen las condiciones es un buen comienzo, y siento que pasa también por quitarle por quitarle ese miedo a hablar de las emociones y de los sentimientos, y poder decir que justamente parte de ese proceso de transformación que estamos haciendo, si queremos una academia diferente, pasa por reconocer los conocimientos situados, pero también en esos conocimientos situados reconocer la manera en que nuestras propias condiciones psicológicas nos atraviesan, no solamente como estudiantes, pero también al profesorado. Pero pienso que lo primero es hacer pues identificar exactamente cuáles son, que no son solamente financieras y que son claves, pero también el tema de los permisos de estudio, que son tan complicados.
Just sharing something else. Totally agree with the founding part. It's just key, as you were saying, like a booth or something like this. Of course, it's just something to soulager, right? Relief, yeah. To relieve your. I mean, usually with the visas and everything, if you want if you want maybe to become like a resident, permanent resident, you also have a lot of other stuff to like translates a serial number of acte de naissance, everything that you can imagine, and then you spend a lot of money on this. Renewing your visa if you are with, I don't know, someone else or your family, it could cost maybe $1,000, or for permanent residencies like one is like $1,500 just to apply. And yeah, and of course the mental health. What I felt since the beginning was it was maybe only my problem, right? It's just like individualize the problem of being international, of being struggling with French. That was my case at UQAM. And although I was telling them, oh no, I did the Francisation course, from like the total Francisation course was like 25 hours per week, and we had to be there like the whole time. Sometimes you could even go outside to, I don't know, to go to Walmart. They didn't let us. It was really hard time to be during pandemic. Also, it was, I mean, everything. When I came, I had like A1 level of French, so it's like really beginner. And I thought that maybe with a PhD I could have maybe some time to practice and learn, but no. And then not only the language, because yeah, I knew that I needed to learn, but also all the other problems that came with the visa and other stuff. So trying to find an apartment, and then the landlord just opted for someone else with citizen, because people say that to me. Many other stuff like trying to get a job, and then people just, I don't know, abandon your application because they say that, oh okay, but we just wanted someone with permanent, like, and I mean all those kind of stuff that are not necessarily related to the academia, but I mean as I was saying about the feelings, right? The mental health is important because you just don't do 100% of your time of PhD or mastering or BA. I mean, you do other stuff. So it was really hard for me during this time. And yeah, I mean, all this kind of network that we have is really important, mostly because when I came during the pandemic, I mean, we just couldn't go on the streets, and then was all the other stuff, and then it became to immigrants to be really a kind of problem to nationwide, right? And then all the rents are just skyrocketing because, and you know, and then other like public opinion was kind of to get to you, and then you just individualize your problem, but I don't know, you just turn on your TV, and then Radio Canada, there's like 3 people saying that immigration c'est pas bon. I mean, and then all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, yeah, just share a few thoughts. Didn't have any answer. Thank you.
Yo solo quería agregar que quizás aquí se puede aprovechar y pensar en CLASHSA y RÉLAM, no sé, alguna manera de traer esto al debate y de congregar más personas que estén, bueno, como nosotros, que nos ayuden a pensar y a buscar soluciones en el entramado en el que estamos todos.
Okay, everyone, I see we are at time. It is 3 already. Really great conversations that I'm sure will continue over coffee over the next little bit. So please join me in thanking once again our 3 panelists. ¿Qué tal? How you doing? Sorry it's taking us this long.